All right, good morning. First of all, I'm really excited to be here. This is a topic that is near and dear to me. For those who don't know me, I lead our financial services practice area, and I've been serving some of these clients for a long time. So some of you guys might be asking, why now? Why do we want to talk about this topic? Again, everybody's heard about blockchain. We've all been tired of hearing about blockchain. But beyond blockchain, how is digital currency actually happening today? So if you are just taking my word for it, forget that. Just look at some of the news articles that you have out there. Think about what is happening even in the sports world. I think some of you guys might have heard about Odell Beckham, the NFL player. He actually has taken some of his payments in the digital currency. You might, in fact, if you love entertainment and you've been to movies, Regal Cinema actually takes Bitcoin and takes some digital currencies as well. If you say, I don't think I see any Gen Zs here, but if there are any Gen Zs here in this audience, yeah, Ram, you look like that, exactly. But if you follow esports, it doesn't matter, right? Esports, actually, some of the payments that they make are actually made in digital currency and so forth. So this topic is very relevant. But if I bring it back to finance, I think the concept of it, and in fact, there was a Genius Act was just signed in June 2025. And that Genius Act, for those who may or may not be familiar with it, it basically gives the US a framework, the regulatory framework that allows us to have stable coin, which is associated with the US dollar. So this topic is very relevant, especially for finance organizations who are expected to do more with less, and especially with AI coming into play, you got to do a lot more. So I've got two market makers in this area who are sitting next to me, and maybe I'll ask Tamara to start off, maybe introduce yourself and give some concept about where Circle is going.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, am I on? Okay. I'm Tamara Schultz. I'm the Chief Accounting Officer at Circle. I've been with Circle about 18 months. For those of you who are not familiar with Circle, Circle at its core is a global financial technology company where we focus on how we make money and payments more secure, how we make them internet native, and how we make them programmable. So if you think today about how your emails move, how your text messages move, streaming, that's what we are doing, but we're doing it in the context of money and payments. So the product that most people are familiar with about Circle is our USDC, which is our US dollar denominated stablecoin, which operates on the blockchains and is backed one-for-one with US treasuries and cash. So the combination of our stablecoins and our tech stack is what enables and makes money flow around the world, cross-border, globally, 24/7, 365 days a year, at a fraction of the cost of your traditional banking rails.
That's awesome. Thanks for the introductions. Maybe, Brad, you want to give a little bit of the intro on Ripple and it's playing in the same ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm Brad Awaya, the VP Global Controller at Ripple. I've been with the company almost a decade now, and when the company was founded back in 2012, we had the vision of creating the Internet of Value. So similar to what Tamara was talking about, it always was a little bit confusing. You can send information anywhere in the world today, it gets there in a matter of seconds. Why can't we do that with value? Why can't we do that with payments? And we sought out to solve that problem. I started a decade ago, and when I started, we were about 100 employees based in San Francisco. Since then, we've grown to about 900 employees, global offices all over the world. And we're continuing to enhance our product features, roll out new products. Our signature product is a payment solution that leverages blockchain technology. And so with our platform, we're nearing 70 billion or so in transaction volume that's been pushed through our platform. And that leverages the blockchain technology, the XRP ledger, XRP as a bridge asset, as well as other stable coins to offer real-time, fast, cheap, cost-efficient cross-border payments. And we since then enhanced our product features as well. We have a custody solution, a digital asset custody solution that we provide to our customers, as well as we recently launched in December of last year a US dollar-backed stablecoin, RLUSD. That has been going great. We're currently sitting at a market cap of around 800 million, and we look for further adoption of that. And maybe I'll say the most important thing is 5 months ago, we went live with Oracle Fusion. And so it's been an awesome experience. Happy to be here.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Tony, my partner in crime, maybe give me a little bit about your background. Let's not talk about your golf game, but let's talk about what you truly do.
So I'm Tony Bowers, and this is Tappan Nagori, by the way. He failed to actually say his name. But I'm a partner in our financial services practice. I had the privilege of being the lead engagement partner for Tamara and their team at Circle as well, and spent quite a bit of time at the Oracle helping them develop their products, think about the evolution of their products, think about how we can provide a better experience both from a consulting perspective as well as a technology perspective for our clients. And today we'll hit a little bit on some of where we're trying to help Oracle go, specifically in this space from a FinTech perspective, given sort of the entrepreneurial nature of the way these organizations are constructed and the fast way they move. Now with Oracle's technology moving very quickly as well, we need to be able to keep up with that pace. So we'll talk a little bit about that in today's session as well.
Great. Thanks, Tony. And I appreciate you pronouncing my name right. So Tamara, as the Chief Accounting Officer, as you go through the journey, and I know Brad mentioned his journey, but you've also been through the journey. But maybe before we go to the Oracle journey, maybe describe what you are seeing in the marketplace, the demand that you are seeing, Circle obviously making IPO and so forth.
Sure. It's been interesting, and especially I think we've seen a lot of tailwinds over the last few months. And I think as you tapped on initially of like the passing of the Genius Act and the legislation and finally getting that clarity in the US of what the infrastructure and regulatory nature is going to look like has really opened up the doors and the floodgates in terms of folks now looking to adopt. So you have the combination of that, and you now finally also have enterprise-grade services, whether that be auditability, you have the acceptance, the risks and controls, so you're really seeing greater enterprise acceptance for the use of stablecoins. So looking across like the different international and global players in this market, you think about when you're trying to transfer funds from one country to another, the amount of delays and friction that exists in the market is tremendous. So whether that be just because of banking holidays, the amount of days it takes to transfer cross-border, FX rate, the complexity of intermediary banks as you're trying to settle in these areas. And if you can actually move money across borders, we've now introduced new rails that haven't existed. So we've just started to open up the floodgates in terms of where the acceptance it's going to be for stablecoins and digital currencies.
So Brad, I'm going to let you maybe expand on that as well and provide your perspective. But just to add, everybody in this room, I will tell you, like 2 years ago, when people were talking about crypto, they were only talking about Bitcoin and so forth, right? But that wave has gone, right? There is a lot more products, a lot more digital currencies out there. So if you haven't been impacted either from a payment standpoint, from a billing standpoint, that is going to happen. And it's a given, right? Each one of you in this room is going to experience that. Brad, maybe give a little bit about, what are you seeing in the marketplace and the demand around digital currencies?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's if you go look online on the different types of cryptocurrency that's out there, you're going to see thousands of them out there. There's a ton of them, what they would call meme coins that don't necessarily have utility. But what you're going to start seeing now is the tokens, the companies that are now creating these assets that actually have real utility. Cross-border payments is like prime for leveraging blockchain technology and digital assets with that. And XRP Ledger is also set up for enhancing that as well too. It's very fast, settles in seconds, very cost efficient. But look, I think you mentioned earlier about just the framework and the regulatory framework that's coming into play. And I think with that's been a long time coming, and something that Ripple has actually really pushed for in the past is around creating that clarity, getting that framework in place. Let's create the rules and make sure that people are following the rules. And therefore then, if you're following the rules, you can continue to innovate, right? Yep. And so I do think with that being somewhat in the US really coming to fruition now, I do see that people, corporates, financial institutions, are now going to start looking into it and saying, okay, well, what is this thing that's coming on here? Yeah. And seeing the actual real value that it can bring to corporates, financial institutions, et cetera.
You mentioned XRP. Did I hear that right?
XRP, yes. XRP is the native asset to the XRP ledger. We currently hold about 40 billion XRP units.
Did you say a B or a?
Billion, yes.
All right. So how about you, Tony? Anything else you want to kind of provide perspectives around how PwC is addressing this marketplace, and how are we potentially bringing in the AI angle? Obviously, we have to talk about AI, guys, right? So.
Yeah, so a couple of things I would say. First, we've talked about blockchain here. Oracle's been thinking about how do we better integrate with blockchain ledger capability. So right now, both Circle and Ripple, I think you run Bitwave if I remember correctly. We obviously are on Cryptio, but that's massive transaction volume, right? And moving through the blockchain would just be too much volume necessarily to bring in from a finance and accounting perspective. However, the way that at least we've architected Circle's capability, we've simplified sort of the two-step reconciliation process between how transactions occur within the actual blockchain itself and how the transaction capability from an accounting perspective actually happens from an FDI accounting hub and ERP perspective. And so Oracle's capability of being able to provide that continuity, especially using ARCs or the account reconciliation tool, has been at least key for us in that space. I think one of the other things, we've been talking about AI, but you're also talking about data. Data, your AI is only as good as the data that you're bringing in, but also our transaction capability and our reconciliation capability and our external reporting is only as good as the data that we capture as well. And so we've spent a significant amount of time from an FDI framework, at least at Circle, and I think at Ripple as well, creating a singular place where data can come in. As transactions can occur through the Oracle ecosystem, they can actually get written back. And in Circle's case, we've built a single, fully reconciled pipe out to Workiva for external financial reporting. So instead of pulling from tons of sources, we've now created a single source reconciliation for our external financial reporting, which has been hugely efficient for them as well. So I think that's just a couple of the innovations that are coming, and we'll talk a couple more as we continue through this discussion.
Great, Tony. And I think this is I'm sure you'll hear this over and over in the sessions that you go to. Without the underlying data set, you can't really address AI, right? You're going to get some data set that you're evaluating, but this is where you have an advantage. If you are on the Oracle platform, it's a tier 1 platform. You already have a lot of the data sets already there available, and you should be able to leverage that. Hopefully, and I think Oracle calls it embedded AI, but there's also workflow agents on top of it. You should be evaluating that in that mindset versus kind of, at least my opinion, trying to solve the whole wild world right around AI, right? How do you address that? Maybe, Tamara, I'm going to go back to the Oracle journey for you, and you took a little bit of a different approach to how you implemented Oracle, and I think somebody, a lot of the people in the audience might appreciate that, but there is 2 different approaches that these 2 clients took. Maybe start with your journey.
Yeah, we took a phased approach. So rather than do kind of like the big bang of putting everything in starting with your general ledger and all the various modules all at once, we did a phased-in approach. And by what we did was starting with the general ledger and the accounting hub, we put that in first, and the reason being that really is your financial backbone of what is the ERP Oracle system that we were putting in. So for us, it was starting with that as the, kind of at its core, and then being able to add the modules. And there was a couple of reasons for that. One, we just had, with everything we had going on, both from a business standpoint, IPO readiness, there was a lot of concern also about fatigue, that if we tried to sideline the entire accounting function that would have been needed to put in all the various pieces at once, we just would have been burning people out. So we took the approach of starting with the general ledger and then adding the modules as we were ready to turn them on. And I think it worked for multiple reasons for that. One, we were able to just put onto the side the SMEs that were needed at that point in time so that everybody else could still continue to operate more in a BAU, so we weren't putting everybody on the project. Also, we started to get people more excited about it. problem with the big bang approach sometimes that I've seen in the past is, everybody's working on it for so long and you're waiting. But at least when you have this phased in approach, those little wins can make a big difference in keeping people motivated, and it keeps kind of that, that light at the end of the tunnel actually seems like a light and not a train when you can start seeing the wins and starting to pick up the efficiencies. And then last, there was a lot of learnings that as you go through each phase with the approach, things that you did in the first phase that you realized, okay, well, maybe the training, the time that we need, let's think about it a little bit different when we start getting into the various further phases.
So I'm going to go through one more round of questions, but if there's a question from the audience, we will entertain questions from the audience as well. Just want to put it out there. Maybe, Brad, you kind of took a little bit of a different approach, right, and kind of rammed it in? No, I wouldn't say that. But I think it was still successful, right? Maybe describe your approach and the reasons behind it.
I just wanted to get it done. So, we definitely did a big bang approach where one of the reasons why I went with Oracle was that it got rid of a lot of our boundary systems. We were able to pull everything under one Oracle umbrella. I definitely see the benefits of doing a phased approach on it. We did our big bang in 9 months, which was really aggressive. Yeah. And so, some of my team members definitely would say I was crazy for kind of pushing on this. I see you laughing over there, Ram. I think there's a lot of benefits of just getting it there, getting it to a state where you can start using it. Because you can do as much testing as you possibly want through an implementation. You can continue doing that. But until you're in it, until you're using it, you really are not going to get the full know it inside and out. And so the faster you can get to that place where all of it's connected, all of it's being used, the faster your adoption is going to be.
Well, and I think there's obviously two different approaches here, but I think what you were also addressing was you surrounded your team with other services, right? Whether it is managed services, whether it is other. So you brought in additional resources to help out your team from a change management and training standpoint.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we had to give the team the time to dedicate to this program, and partly we partnered with PwC application managed services as well as accounting managed services.
Great. And Tony, you've seen all flavors of these, right? By module, anything that you want to share from your standpoint, lesson learned and so forth.
Well, every organization's a little different. Y'all absorb change a little differently. Y'all have other things going on at the same time. But I do think the one commonality here, at least in both approaches, and it's going to be this way as you migrate into cloud and SaaS as well, is these aren't like legacy products where you would implement it once and then it was sort of maybe do an upgrade every couple of years or a little bit of care and feeding. These applications really require attention. And so both of these folks, having a managed service which has the ability to keep on top of everything that's going on with Oracle. Every 3 months, there's going to be new capabilities that come out, and the capabilities are rapid and they're voluminous, especially with AI and with the data changes that are coming in as well. And so thinking of that as just a specialized service, more than just a support function, will really allow you to get added benefits out of the solution in terms of being able to take it further than what you would have from an implementation. I would say the other thing that both of these folks did really well is great executive support, right? I mean, both of these guys constantly between the steering committee, weekly updates, managing their team, making sure people were available for the program. Both great from that perspective, and in both cases, they also had a head of transformation or a head of the project who handled the true day-to-day execution, who were both, at least in Circle's case for sure, experts in their field from both an IT and a business perspective. And those people were going to continue in their role from that BAU, like expanding capability perspective as well. And so setting up your organizational structure that way, and with managed services, bringing them in early during system integration testing, you can then let them build up the capabilities and skills so they're basically just part of the natural team. You actually don't even know the difference between the PwC team and the client team.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to you, Brad, next. I think you mentioned a little bit about cross-border payments. And maybe for the audience, just kind of describe how effective the network is, and maybe describe how Ripple plays in that area.
Yeah, so our signature product was our payments product, and just a little bit about how that product works. So a customer will come to our platform and initiate their cross-border payment. They get a quote, whatever it might be, from USD to, let's say, Brazilian reals. What happens underneath that is that there's actually a digital assets that's leveraged to move that asset cross-border. If you use it on the blockchain, especially with XRP Ledger, it's fast, it's real-time, it's cost efficient. It gets to the other side of it, and then it converts back into a fiat currency and gets paid out through the local rails there. So that's our product that we have there. Now, it can create a little bit of complexity from the accounting side of the house on it. So underneath what happens in the hood, there's that digital asset transaction, and the accounting for that level of volume can get a little bit tricky. And so that's where we're looking at doubling down on different subledgers, but also in the future of having Oracle, maybe some of this data running through the accounting hub side of the house.
Since I have you, how did Oracle help you in this area? Maybe kind of expand on that maybe from a reconciliation standpoint and other areas.
So there's a couple areas that I probably would highlight here. I mean, we're a payments company at its core, and with that comes a lot of accounts. Comes a lot of bank accounts, comes a lot of crypto accounts. And so, a lot of what we're doing right now is creating the rules that we need to do that automated reconciliation and journal entry posting on that. So that's been a big help because we didn't have much of that capability within our last ERP that we were in. And I will say that the accounting hub solution, I'm trying to see, we're investing a lot of time into building out more capabilities with Accounting Hub, setting up the rules there, using that as our core subledger. I think there's still a little bit of work that's need to get done there, but I do see there being a tremendous value in the future from that.
So Tamara, you were jumping up and down on the successful IPO, right?
Yes.
Right. So how has that process been enabled through Oracle, and how has Oracle come to the table?
Yeah, I mean, the first I would say is do not do an ERP implementation while you're going to IPO. Like, that would not be something I'd recommend. But for us, it was important to do from the perspective that we had a legacy system and we had very disparate subledgers. So what we had was not scalable. So from an infrastructure standpoint, knowing directionally where the company was looking to grow and where we in the accounting and finance side wanted to support it, we certainly needed to put a system like Oracle in place to support our future business. So by doing that, though, as we've been implementing it and putting in the various modules, the amount of controls, the checks, it certainly makes us 404 compliant ready that we don't have. Our existing system would have been a lot harder to do. Not to mention, we've been able to significantly take down our close process. Prior, we were in business day 15 plus in order to close the books. Now we're about half of that, and probably in the next couple months we'll bring it in even shorter. But the amount of reconciliations and manual touch points have significantly gone down as well. So from our perspective, I can tell you also from our auditor's perspective, audit committee, we have a lot of support in moving with Oracle.
Yeah, and I think this is the underlying theme you're going to hear, right? These guys are operationalizing digital currency. There is an operational component to this, and Oracle, being a tier 1 platform, plays in this area, right? They help out in this area. I think maybe, Tony, if I can come back to you, and maybe audience, if there's a question, anybody has a question, please raise your hand. We have a mic here. There's no wrong question here. We're happy to answer any questions you might have. All right. Since we are not hearing, we're hearing crickets, maybe I'm going to go back to some of our questions that we have. Again, Oracle, there's a reason Oracle is dominating this space, but you are expecting more from Oracle as well, right? And maybe I want to start with you, Tamara.
Sure.
What are some of your additional expectations? Since we are recorded, hopefully people are listening as well. So how about
Arbor agreements in place.
And I think I'll start with the very basics of, we have a digital dollar. Our USDC we have over 76 billion in circulation right now. So from our perspective, it is no different than any other FX or any other currency that you would build into your systems. This was something had to be a custom build for us. The existing ERP systems have not yet recognized what these digital assets are from a transaction standpoint. So I think we would like to certainly see further integration of digital assets and digital currencies into the Oracle ERP.
But I think what's unique about at least what we've done for you is we were able to actually configure that currency within the existing Oracle application, even as it sits today. So even though we would like to see it more automated, we'd like to see it as more of a supported version of something just in the base product. The product itself has not stopped us from being able to do that. So we did have the ability to configure it. We have been able to make payments out in USDC, which speaks volumes for what Oracle's technology capabilities are.
And then maybe Brad, come to you, right? I think you've got a list, right?
A laundry list. Yeah. So look, I mean, blockchain technology is a ledger. Like that's at its core, that's what it is. It's a distributed ledger. And so it's almost like performing accounting for you in a decentralized manner. As more activity and more corporates, more financial institutions start doing more with those ledgers, it makes 100% sense that Oracle's tapping into that, right? Oracle can tap directly into those blockchains to pull the relevant data and then connect it to maybe likely an accounting hub that can apply the rules and then create the journal entries and so forth. So being able to pull that data through in a more automated manner, having those APIs set up, that would be a fantastic thing for not just the industry, but for Oracle as well too, as more customers are adopting this technology. The second side of it is on the payment side of it. So right now we can go into Oracle through kind of AP and we can click a button and say pay this invoice, and what it does, it sends a message out to our bank and it pays it out. As there's more and more adoption, there's going to be the need for there to be not just with the banking and normal rails, but on the digital asset side. So a USDC, a stable coin in the background, where you say, hey, I want to pay this vendor. And by the way, you can click a button, it gets sent out, messages get sent out to the blockchain to kind of initiate that payment, and it settles in a matter of seconds. So if you ever have an angry vendor saying, hey, you didn't pay me, it's like, oh, hold on, let me get it done. Okay, got it, right? And having that interaction with the ERPs is going to be the next step in adoption. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing Oracle make some investment there.
Yeah, and Brad, if I can even actually just pull on that thread, you made a great point about, kind of payments, but if you think about blockchains and what they are with the smart wallets and how those are programmable, now you can make everything, instead of having to actually manually push that, you can have it be now activity driven. So when you can start building into your entire infrastructure so that as various milestones or actions have happened up front on the business side, to be able to actually just push it back through on the ERP side would be, a huge element of then even, kind of to your point when you started of how do you do more with less? Well, if I need less people to actually be pushing that button or waiting and being told that action has actually happened versus it being, programmed into the smart contracts.
Then you layer in AI on top of that, right?
That'll be easy. By the way, has anybody seen those ATM machines where you can actually buy crypto? Has anybody seen those? So it is actually becoming a lot more mainstream than what you guys are evaluating, right, and looking at. I guess maybe for the future, as we get into more of the AI world, and I think we all have heard the storyline that, hey, it needs to be more a tool. Maybe, Tony, you want to kind of expand on how PwC is evaluating it and helping out clients in this area?
Yeah, so, we've kind of started thinking about approaching this from a couple of different angles. So, for those of you, obviously, that are here, you could stop by our booth. We have a thing called agent-powered performance, where essentially we are using Oracle's agent capability to string together business processes using AI agents, because an agent obviously only executes a single function, but the ability to actually pull that AI together so you can do a full end-to-end business process is something that we're now starting to do. We've got, I think, 38 or 40 business processes end-to-end now that we've been able to enable through agent-powered performance. We also now have the ability to, instead of just executing Oracle's delivered and embedded AI, we have the ability to build on top of that as well and expand upon that. So if you're able to come by our booth, you can see some demos of some of the capabilities that we've built out there, connecting directly to OpenAI, where you have the ability to use natural language processing to ask questions directly through FDI. So now we don't also have to physically instantiate that data, but like we talked about, that data being the true engine of things. FDI is now serving as that connector, or AFCS if you want something a little more industrial strength, to pull that data together. So yes, please. Yeah.
For your customers, specifically the ones that have been on Oracle Fusion for a while,
Yep.
this AI, and we've been on for a while.
Yep.
And we're struggling with looking at what can we do from an AI standpoint, whether you're talking about accounting, supply chain, drainage, you name it. Can you give me one or two examples from your customers that you actually taken AI and put a pilot, put something in?
Sure. Yeah, so the question was, if you're an existing ERP customer, you've been live for a while, Oracle's introducing new capabilities, how do you kind of do that? So I'll give you a perfect example. So at USAA, when we implemented accounts payable, they were a legacy PeopleSoft shop. They had built a customization that sat in the front of PeopleSoft that did all kind of stuff to kind of standardize that AP invoice, replicated what IDR or IDP did in terms of that intelligent document recognition and posting it into the transaction and all of that stuff. Now with AI, we have the ability to, when something hits IDR, where we actually put in a new AI agent that actually does the coding directly into the accounts payable module. It creates the AP invoice. It actually automates the payment and pushes it straight through end to end. So if there's 0 errors in the transaction and it came through approved at the starting point of the transaction, AI handles the entire rest of it. The second place that we're deploying an AI agent is in reconciliation. So for USAA, they want to be able to reconcile every hop from point of source to, they have OFSA in their case, which is on premise, but we're actually moving that onto OCI so that it'll be on the cloud. But they also are doing, so today they have to also do cloud to ground reconciliation. And so we have AI agents that are also doing that step-by-step reconciliation that actually feeds into ARCs. So we've created a dashboard where you can go in at any time and it shows you a red, yellow, green of an entire string end-to-end of a data flow movement of where you either had a potential cautionary item or an error. And in some of those cases, our AI agent can actually fix the error for you or proposes what the fix should be. So those are just two very direct examples, but we have countless others, quite frankly. So like I said, one of the good things about our AES team, and Sanjeev's here who actually runs our AES team, is that those folks are doing that for you essentially. So if our managed services is on the ground, as things come out, we're summarizing and making recommendations to our clients as to here's some places for improvement and actually starting to enable those as well.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, maybe I can get your name, but.
George is CIO at Go Natural Resources.
Okay, got it. So George, I think Sanjeev will probably help you out there, but I think there is this agent-powered performance. We have this wheel that we put out there. What Tony described is what is all embedded AI stuff, right? But there is other pieces, like for example, even within the AP module, a lot of what we have found is our clients spend a lot of time responding to inquiries, right? Where is this invoice? What has happened to it? Has it been completed or not, right? And so there are agents that allow you to kind of write a natural query language that says, okay, show me the details of this invoice. Now, I do have some clients who are also evaluating the second piece, which is where even when your suppliers ask you a question, it will actually read the email and actually kind of respond to that email saying, look, here's where your invoice is. You didn't provide this X amount of details, so please provide that, and until that is done, we can't do anything with it. Right? So those are a couple of examples, and we can see the demos as Tony mentioned. You should please drop by our, right? Yeah. Awesome, right? And anyway, so I'm going back to maybe, do you have questions for me, by the way? If you want to ask a question, this is your time. The answer is no.
Is PwC going to start taking payments in stablecoin?
That's a great question, right? And we are evaluating that. We've actually had discussions about it. I will not put the network firm out there yet because there is a network firm PwC has that has started accepting digital assets, but the US is a little bit behind in that regard, at least the PwC US side, right? But that is a path that we are evaluating. All right, anything else? Is this the first time you're asking me that question?
No comment.
How about you, Tamara? Any questions that come to your mind? If not, I'll do a little bit of closing and go from there.
No, I think you hit on everything.
Well, on behalf of PwC and the audience, look, I appreciate the time that both of you are spending. I'll just leave you with two thought processes for the rest of the audience. Look, this digital currency is real. Genius Act has made it more mainstream. Please look at it. It is not just happening in San Francisco or in the Bay Area, right? A lot of clients are actually looking at it. Payments are happening. Billing processes are changing. Treasury is going to get impacted. So please do look at it. And obviously, we love to talk about this topic, so we are here. If you haven't answered any questions, we'll stay for another 10, 15 minutes. So thank you all for coming.